Okay. So first, so when it comes to web, so what is the difference between a Windows-based application, web-based application? So a simple example is WhatsApp and WhatsApp web. WhatsApp and WhatsApp web. WhatsApp web.whatsapp.com. Right? Or you can say your Facebook Messenger and facebook.com. Right? So when it comes to WhatsApp, if you want to use WhatsApp, it has to be installed physically in your local machine, in your device, whether your device can be mobile or tablet, it can be anything, smaller device or bigger one. It requires physical installation. If 100 users wants to use WhatsApp, it has to be installed in 100 different user machines, user devices. But when it comes to WhatsApp web, I don't have to install it. I don't have to install anything, right? If I just say web.whatsapp.com, what happens? I did not install WhatsApp, but still I can access WhatsApp, right? Now what happens? Here I'm using a browser to access WhatsApp application. I did not install it physically, right to me. So this is WhatsApp web, which just requires internet connection, a browser, right to me. So what happens whenever I say web.whatsapp.com? So what happens? So your WhatsApp is not available in my machine. It is there somewhere in some web server. Whenever I say web.whatsapp.com or facebook.com, I did not install anything in my machine related to Facebook. But when I say facebook.com, I'll be able to access Facebook. But where is this Facebook? Where is this Facebook? Where it is available? Read me. Or you can say gmail.com. I did not install Gmail in my machine. But through browser, using internet, I'm able to access Gmail. Through browser, I'm able to access Gmail. Read me. So what happens whenever I type something in my browser and press enter, it sends a request to respective web server. Read me. It sends request to respective web server. What is a web server? That is one of the highly scalable machine which is connected to your network. Your application, your WhatsApp application, web application, your Gmail and everything is there in that application. Whenever I press enter, it sends a request to that particular server and there your request will be processed. It sends some response back to your machine. This is what I got. This is the response I received. Read me. But is this information stored in my local machine? Whatever I'm seeing here, this email, is it stored in my local machine? No. This is stored somewhere in the web. This is stored somewhere on the web. This content got delivered, downloaded from that location to my local machine. Read me. So this is web application. So when it comes to web WhatsApp, if you want to use WhatsApp, it has to be installed physical in your machine. But if I use to web.whatsapp.com, no need to install anything because it is a standalone application. It requires physical installation. But when it comes to web.whatsapp.com, it is a web-based application. It doesn't require any installation. If WhatsApp, if 100 users wants to use WhatsApp, this has to be installed explicitly in 100 different devices, 100 user devices. But when it comes to web, no installation required. Not only 100, millions of people can access this application from anywhere across the world. They just need a browser and internet connection. Read me. But here, when it comes to WhatsApp, it will be installed physically in your device. It will make use of your device resources and it will be available to only your device. So it will be working very faster compared to your web. When it comes to web, what they will do, once that WhatsApp application is ready, they will identify a highly scalable machine and they will put this application to that machine and get that connected to internet. Now this will be shared by, that same server will be shared by multiple people. You can access any web application from anywhere across the world. So what happens? resources and everything will be shared among multiple people. So this will be working like compared to when it comes to the performance. Your WhatsApp, your desktop application gives better performance compared to your web. But there are certain requirements. If something has to be available to only the device, go with standalone application. If something has to be shared by multiple people, if something has to be available to multiple people across the world, then go with web-based application. So we have seen how to design a Windows-based application. We have played with a different set of controls. Now we will see how to design a web-based application. How to design a web-based application. Okay. Now, when it comes to web-based application, when it comes to Windows application, everything will be in your local machine only. It will be installed physically, application will be available in your local machine. But when it comes to web, WhatsApp application will not be available in my local machine. This will be there somewhere. This will be there somewhere on the cloud. Whenever I want to access web-based application, I need to open my browser and type this URL. Whenever I have typed this URL, so the request should go to the respective server over the network. Your request has to be processed. Then it has to send some response back to your machine. Are you getting me? So this level of process has to be done between you and the respective server. So here, client server architecture will come into the picture. Client and server. Let us assume that this is facebook.com web server. And this is client. Like whoever is requesting for that application will become client. For example, I want to access my application. I want to access Facebook. Here I will type www.facebook.com. Right? And there is another user. He also wants to use Facebook application. So he's client 2. And there is another browser. Each browser will become one client. Client 3. Are you getting me? So once your application is deployed into the server, n number of people can access this, n number of people can share these resources. This is called client server architecture. When it comes to web-based application, your application will be there somewhere. So this is called server, web server. As I said, we have 3 types of servers. We have three types of servers. What are those? Database server. We have already seen example SQL server, Oracle. These are called database servers. Application server. So whenever you work with your services, like your web API, RESTful services, those services will be available under application server. Next one is a web server. What database server will have? Database server will have collection of databases. Application server will have collection of applications, services. And web server will have collection of websites. A web server will have collection of websites. What is a server? Server is nothing but your machine. You could also make your machine as a server. But it should have good amount of configuration. Are you with me? So server is a highly scalable machine. That's it. Highly scalable machine. Any highly scalable machine can be considered as a server. Are you with me? So when it comes to real-time applications, irrespective of the technologies, you will see 3 different types of servers: database server, application server, and web server. What will be there in the database server? A database server will have collection of databases. Application server will have collection of services. And web server will have collection of websites. Within the same server, you can keep n number of websites. Are you with me? For example, my organization is having 2 websites. HDFC.com, HDFCloans.com, HDFCpersonalbanking.com. I have 5 to 6 websites. Yes, I can keep all those websites within a single server, single machine. So that's why I'm calling it as web server. Example, IIS, Internet Information Services. This is a server of Microsoft. We have Apache, Tomcat, and Kestrel. Read me. So there are different types of servers are available in the market. So based on your requirement, you can choose any web server. But for most of the .NET applications, we use IIS, Internet Information Services. This server is being provided by Microsoft at free of cost. And for .NET core applications, we'll be using Kestrel or IIS. And for some Java-based application, we'll be using Apache, Tomcat, and there are different servers are available, but concept will remain same. When it comes to web server, what is there in the web server? Collection of websites. You can keep n number of websites. So whenever you want to develop any website like your Facebook or Gmail, what you have to do? So you have to develop your website. Once your website web application is ready, that has to be deployed into any one of the web server using a different unique port. For example, this is a Facebook application, right? But when it comes to internet, there can be a number of websites, Facebook, Gmail, and other things. Whenever I say facebook.com, how come the request is exactly going to only Facebook server? Whenever I say gmail.com, it will go to only Gmail server. How exact this is identifying the respective server? Based on what? Right? See, now I can access any site from my browser. If I say something like Spotify.com, it will go to only Spotify. It will bring only Spotify content. Right? So it has to. So on the internet, on the cloud, there are millions of websites. How exactly it is routing your control to the respective website? How it is identifying your site, so that respective website? There should be some unique identifier, right? Like your employee. What is the unique identity of employee? Employee ID, right? If there is no unique identity for your website, then it is very difficult to identify your website. There should be some unique identifier for website also, like your employee ID, right? If I type something, there are millions of websites available on the internet, but it will pick only the respective website. It has to identify that respective website and bring that content back to you. Then how exactly it is doing, based on what it is identifying the website accurately. So when it comes to your web servers, we have a concept of port numbers. Like your employee ID, every website will be hosted using a different unique port number. 0 to 1024 are reserved ports, and will be assigning other than these ports for websites. These are reserved ports. So like website 1, what is the port number? For example, you will call it as internet address, IP address, right? What is the IP address? It is a unique address of that respective machine. So like this, we will have a port number, like say 100 is a port number of Facebook, and 200 is a port number of Gmail. Like this, every website will be provided using a unique port number. So based on that port number, domain name, and port number, it will identify that respective service, respective web application. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay. So there are millions of websites are available on the internet, but every website will be having its own unique address and port number. Okay. So facebook.com, what is that? Your website name. And that is also unique. It should have a unique name and unique port number. And based on that, so whenever I access something, I type something on the web browser. So based on the DNS name as well as your port number, it will identify the respective website. So in your web server, whenever you host any web-based application like your Facebook, Gmail, what has to be done? you have to host it using a different DNS name as well as port number. So once it is connected to internet, then anyone can access your application from anywhere across the world. No physical installation is required. Okay, so this is something about port number. In Windows GUI, we are calling each form as window form. When it comes to web, for example, this is one form, right? It is a graphical user interface. And if I click on this, it will take me to another form. This is another form, like your web. There it is Windows, that's why we call it as Windows form. Here it is web, that's why we should call it as web form. Web form. Web form. What is a website? Your Facebook is my website. Facebook is a website. Gmail is a website. What is there in Gmail? If I click on start, it will take me to another web form. If I click on choose, it will take me to another web form. What is a website? A website is nothing but collection of web forms, web pages. Collection of web forms, web pages is called as a website. And in order to make it accessible to the people across the world, what has to be done? Your website has to be hosted into one of the highly scalable machine that is called web server using unique DNS and port number. And what is a web server? A web server will have collection of websites. Okay, you need to understand this. First, website. What is a website? Collection of web pages or web forms. What is a web server? Collection of websites, web applications. That's all. Not only one web application, not only one website, you can host a number of websites into your web server. So whenever you want to make any application accessible to the people over the internet, what has to be done? That has to be deployed into a web server using a unique DNS and port number. And this server should be connected to internet. That's all. Now anyone can access your application from anywhere across the world. Now, next. Here I can see HTTPS. Did we type this? No. It came automatically. What are these? TCP, HTTPS. What are all these things? TCP, HTTP, HTTPS. What are these? These are called protocols. Some sites will make use of TCP. Somewhere you will see HTTP. Somewhere you will see HTTPS. What is the difference between TCP, HTTP, HTTPS? Why are you using this? See, here I typed my request like facebook.com. Facebook is there somewhere. We don't even know where it is available, the location of your Facebook server, but you are able to access it. We will carry your request to that respective server. And once request gets processed in the server, the response, the content should be sent back to the respective client. Who will send that? And we will carry that information from client to server and server to client. For example, simple. You wanted to send some costly gift to your friend who is in India. What is the first thing that will come into your mind? If it is not a costly gift, if it is a simple kind of letter or some greeting, you will not think much about the security. Are you to me? There are different types of couriers. Whenever you want to send something to any location, the first thing that will come into your mind is you have to choose a good courier. What is the role of a courier? Courier will take care of carrying something from one end to another end. Courier will take care of carrying something from one end to another end. But there are different couriers available. DTDC, Blue Dart. Blue Dart is little expensive than DTDC. DTDC is little expensive than local. Are you with me? And what will you choose? So you will choose one among those based on your requirement. If you are going to send a simple letter, or read to me, which is not a costly gift, a simple gift, you will not think much about the security reasons. Read to me. So probably you may go for local also, because it's not that much costly. Why to spend more money on delivering the things? We will choose local because security is not a concern. Now you want to send some gold coins to your friend. Will you choose local one? No. Then you will think about security. Then you will start thinking about the security. How do I deliver this to my friend more securely? And who is the right person to get this delivered more securely? Then you will start investigating it. You will not think about the money, right? So blue dot might be more expensive than your local one, but still you will choose blue dot only. Why? Because your security concerns. You need more security that has to be delivered securely. Right? So that is where the difference will come into the picture from courier to courier. Right? Here also same thing. You are going to send some information from here to here and here to here. Who is going to carry that information from client to server and server to client? Courier. That courier is nothing but your protocol. That is called transmission protocol. What are these? These are all called as transmission protocols. TCP, IPC, HTTP, HTTPS, and there are some custom protocols also. All these are called transmission protocols, which will take care of transmitting data from one end to another end, which will take care of transferring data, carrying data from one end to another end, from client to server, server to client. As I said in the previous example, I'll have to choose, I'll have to decide which protocol has to be used to access my website. That depends upon the sensitivity of the information that is going to be transferred from one end to another end. The importance, the security of the information that needs to be transferred from one end to another end. Based on what is going to be transferred from one end to another end, you'll have to decide. If you are going to send some advertisement data, anyone can see it. I don't have to think much about the security, right? I can use a normal protocol, HTTP. But if you are going to send some transaction data, some financial data from one end to another end, when it comes to banking applications, right? How do you access your banking application? For example, if I say ICICIbank.com, right? This is ICICI Bank. If I type this, see, here we are using HTTPS. I can also use HTTP, but this is a banking application. Whenever I log in, whenever I say login, here I need to enter user ID and password. Whenever I click on login, what happens? This user ID and password should be transferred to that respective server over the network. If I use local courier to transfer the data, what happens? Anyone can hack it. Now what should I do? I should use more secure transmission protocol, more secure courier to transmit this kind of data because it is more confidential, more sensitive data. Are you with me? Next, once I log in into this, I'll be performing different financial operations. I'll be transferring the amount and I'll be doing some other operations. That is also more confidential data. Are you with me? That should not be exposed to others, right? So it will be performing, more critical operations in case of your banking applications. You are not supposed to expose that data over the network to anyone. Here, you need to use more secure transmission protocol. That's why here you can see HTTPS. What is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? TCP is a platform dependent protocol. which provides communication between only same platforms, homogeneous platforms. If the communication has to be exchanged between different platforms, then HTTP is the right option. But HTTP is not that much secured. That's why they have introduced another protocol called HTTPS. S means secured. It's more secured. It comes with an additional layer compared to HTTP. It's nothing but an additional layer over HTTP. If something has to be transferred more securely from one end to another end, then you have to make use of HTTPS protocol. Read me. That's why in most of the application, you will see this log symbol. Log symbol means what? It is more secured. If they are using HTTPS protocol, the identities of the client and server will be done based on some certificate. It would implement some complex security algorithms, which will take care of your security, which will protect your data from hackers. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
So, okay, for more secure websites, you will see these log symbols. Okay. Okay, so now when something has to be transferred from one end to another end, then you have to make use of transmission protocols like TCP, HTTP, and HTTPS. You will carry the information from one end to another end over the network. Transmission protocols, TCP, HTTP, HTTPS, IPC, these kind of protocols. Okay, so as a developer, you will have to decide what protocol has to be used to exchange data between client and server in your application. So again, that depends upon the requirement of the application, requirement of the data. If it's not that much secure, you can go with HTTP. If the data has to be secured, if some complex algorithm has to be implemented, that has to be secured and protected from your hackers. Or if you're going to, like send transactional data, more sensitive data from one end to another end, then your approach should be towards more secure protocols like HTTPS. Okay. Now we understood the concept of a website, a web server, and how the communication will be exchanged between your client and server. When it comes to website, here you'll find two roles, client and server. Where is my website? Your actual website will be there in the web server. Once it is connected to the internet, now this can be accessed from anywhere, from any user. N number of people can access this application from anywhere. N number of people can access this application from anywhere. So a user is called as client. Right? Here I'm accessing. From where I'm accessing it from my web browser. So each web browser is nothing but one client. Each web browser is nothing but one client. Okay. So when it comes to websites, your client server architecture will come into the picture. Client server architecture will come into the picture. Whenever you want to access any website, first you have to type that website name here and press enter. Once you press enter, so what it will do, it will send request to the respective web server. The server, the website will be identified based on the DNS name and unique port number. First, you have to send request to the web server. Once request comes to the web server, it will process that request and sends a response back to that respective client. Then you will see the content on the website. So the process of sending request to the web server and getting response back from the web server is called as post back. Post back. They given one name called post back. What do you mean by post back? It is a process of sending request to the server and receiving response back from the server. Getting response back from the server. That process, the complete process, sending request and getting response back is called as post back. So in case of websites, post back will take place. Now you would use a terminal called post back. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
No.
Okay, now you are aware of the website, web page or web form, web server, transmission protocols. So why do we see TCP, HTTP, HTTPS in the web browser, the URL of website, because these are the ones which will take care of carrying the information, transferring the data from one end to another end, from one machine to another machine over the network. And what is the post back? It is a process of sending request to the client server and getting response back from the server. That is called post back. Okay. Now you understood the architecture of your website, right? So in case of web-based application, two roles will come into the picture. That is your client server architecture. This is called client server architecture, right? Whoever is accessing your website will become client, and wherever you deployed your website will become server. Always the communication will be exchanged between client and web server. So the process of exchanging the communication between client and server is called as post back. Okay, so here our application will be deployed only once. Here we have only one application deployed into this machine. Now it is being shared by multiple clients. It is being shared by multiple clients. It means the same server resource are being shared by multiple servers. When it comes to your desktop application, it is dedicated to only your device, right? Because you have installed it physically in your machine. It is dedicated to only your device. So the resources of that application will be shared to only your device, will be used by only your device. That's why that will be working more faster than your website. So desktop has its own advantages. What is that? It is very faster compared to your website. The disadvantage is only that particular user can use it. Other users cannot use it. But advantage of web server, so one application can be used by a number of people. Are you with me? Over the network. The only thing is the same server resources will be used for all clients. If the load is increased, that might degrade performance of your website. That's why when it comes to the reality, the real-time applications, not only one server. If you are expecting more load, then what we do keep 3 to 4 servers. For example, when it comes to Facebook kind of application, in the beginning, when they started their application, their website, there was only one web server. But after the load got increased like anything, right? Then they put a lot of servers. What they will do, they'll keep n number of servers and keep some load balancers between those servers, like server 1, server 2, server 3. And between those servers, they will install load balancers. What is the load balancer? It will just keep on checking the load of every server. For example, if the server load is increased, it will just route the traffic to another server. If the load on the server 2 gets increased, it will route the remaining traffic to third server, fourth server. It will just keep on balancing the things between all the servers. So that is the concept of load balancing, load balancers. So when it comes to Facebook and Gmail kind of applications, so they do keep more than one server and installs load balancers. So those load balancers will take care of balancing the load among all servers that are available with Gmail or Facebook. Every time it will just keep on checking the load of each and every server. If server is busy, if it is overloaded, what it will do? It will just divert or route the traffic to another server. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Now what we have to do, if you want to design a web-based application, first you have to create a web page or collection of web pages. Okay. Then once your website is ready, what is a website? Website is nothing but a collection of web pages. Once your website is ready, then identify your server, deploy that into your web server, and get it connected to internet using unique port number and unique DNS names. Once it is connected, then you can start accessing it from anywhere across the world. Okay. So now we need to know how to design a web page, how to design a website. Okay. So in 80s, before your .NET and Java, we used to develop all types of web-based applications using a formatting language, a web-based GUI language called HTML, hypertext markup language. HTML. HTML. Like your Windows. For web, we have HTML, hypertext markup language. It is a formatting language. Web-based GUI language. Using this, you'll be able to design all controls of web application, like your label, text box, and all these things. Button. In Windows, whenever I click on button, what happens? The button click event will be generated. If I want to perform some action on button click, where do I write this? We used to write that inside the button click event. But here also same thing. In your web page also, you need to design the same thing. You need to keep your label, you need to keep your text box, you need to keep your button. Whenever I click on that button, some action has to be performed. Alright, when it comes to GI, all GI applications are same. Everywhere you will see same type of controls. Same label will be there in the web, same button will be there, same drop down will be there. Alright, but the only thing is environment is different. In Windows, we used to write that action inside a click event. I know that if I want to design this UI, like GUI, graphical user interface, I can use HTML. But if I click on some button, some action has to be performed. Where do I write that action? Which language has to be used to write that action? In Windows, we used to write that action using C#. But if I use HTML, what should I use? Which language should be used to write my action? So it doesn't support any programming languages. It supports scripting language like your JavaScript, VBScript. JavaScript and VBScript. So if you want to design your graphical things like your controls, label, text box, make use of HTML. If you want to perform any actions, you have to make use of either JavaScript or VBScript. Earlier, we used to develop all types of web-based applications in the 80s using JavaScript and VBScript. Okay, so first, let's see the structure of your HTML application. And we will see a couple of examples like how to write your action using JavaScript along with your HTML controls. Okay, any questions, guys? So let's create a simple web application using your HTML and JavaScript. Okay, next, let's see the structure of your HTML application. Structure of HTML application. So when it comes to plain HTML application, so as I said, if you want to develop something, you would be needing an IDE, integrated development environment, which provides environment for your application development. If I want to develop .NET application, what should I use? There my IDE is going to be Visual Studio. If I want to develop Java application, my IDEs are going to be Eclipse and some other IDEs are also available. If I want to write a C program, I should use Turbo C editor. That is the IDE for C. And where do I write my HTML code? So basically, HTML code can be written anywhere, but finally, the file should be saved as .html. The file should be saved with the extension .html. You can write it anywhere. You can write it anywhere. Read me. A simple notepad can also be used as IDE for your HTML application development. Okay. So let's see the structure of this. This is Notepad. I can also use the language. Okay. Let's see the structure of your HTML. So not only your HTML, first you need to understand the structure of a web page. For example, if you take ICICI Bank web page, this is ICICI Bank. The whole page will get divided into three parts. Three parts. What are those? Header, body, and footer. This is header. It contains header information. What is there on the header? The logo of the ICICI Bank, bank name, and some links. This part is called as header. And the second part is called body. This is body. On the body, you can actually define the actual body of your web page. And footer is optional. This is called footer. On the footer, you will see this thing, terms and conditions. That is called footer. Copyright information that will be there on the footer. So basically, A web page got divided into two parts. What is that? Header and body. Footer is optional. Header and body. So whenever you want to design any web-based application, what has to be designed? Header of the web page and body of the web page. Whether you are using Java, .NET or anything. The core part of every web page is going to be a standard HTML structure. Everywhere, whether it is Java, .NET or anything, you can take any technology. The standard structure of every web page is going to be a HTML structure, standard HTML structure. So whenever I say the structure of HTML page, what will be there? It contains header and body. Header and body. So the first part. In HTML, HTML is not a programming language. It is a formatting language, markup language. Read me. And it's not a compiler-based language. Okay, all lines will not be compiled at a time. It is a compiler-based language. If I type something, it will identify the errors during compilation, but here it is not like that. You will not know about your errors until you run this application in the web browser. Okay, so if you look into this, here each and every command has to be provided in the form of a tag, like your SQL. In SQL, if you want to perform any operation, you have to write a command. In C#, if you want to perform any operation, you would write your own program. Okay, here also we need to tell the HTML like what has to be created, whether you want to display some text or you want to create a label, text box, button, or we should tell the system what has to be done. How do I tell the system? So here everything should be provided in the form of a comment. That comment is called as tag, HTML tag. Everything should be provided in the form of a tag. So the first tag is going to be master tag, is going to be HTML. And there should be a respect to like beginning and closing braces. There should be a closing tag for this, right? Beginning of the HTML and end of the HTML tag. So this will be considered as HTML block. Okay, and this is your web page, HTML web page. Now I can divide this into two parts, header and body. First, I need to define the header. So I have to use a comment tag called head and end of the head. Right? Next, second part is going to be body. Next, end of the body. If I use slash tag, this will indicate the end of that respective block. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay. This is the HTML page. What is there? I will have header and body. Inside header, you can keep header related information like title and other stuff. For everything, you'll have a tag, title. Let's say student website, or you can use your organization, let's say Oxford International School. End of the title. Right? Next, body. It actually contains your body. So all your controls and everything should be there inside your body. Okay, it contains header part and body. All header related information can be placed here, and the body, actual content of the body should be placed inside the body. And you can give your 4-color, BG color, there are a set of properties. Okay, so I'll tell you. Okay, so you need to learn these basics. Okay, we have w3schools.com. Please go to this w3schools.com. Right? Since you already play with all different types of controls in Windows, just go through that. Which tag has to be used to create a label? Which tag has to be used to create a drop and combo box, check box, radio button? Okay, you just need to know the tag names. That's all. But rest of the stuff is similar. Now we'll show you few. How do I create a label? Simple. We have a tag called input. Input. You should tell the system type. We have a property called type. One second, please. Okay, guys. So whenever you want to create any control in HTML, you have to use a tag, standard tag called input. It comes with a property called type. Here you should tell the system where type is equal label, or text box, or button, or combo box, checkbox, or radio. Okay. If I tell label, if I say label, type is equal to label will be created. If I say text box will be created. If I say button, button will be created. Okay. So type is equal to label. Okay. Next, like your Windows, every control should be identified, should be provided using a unique identifier. Okay, because whenever you want to do some program with that respective control, that identifier is more useful because you will be able to access the properties of that control, the value of that control using only that ID. Because in the same web page, we'll be keeping different controls like label, different types of labels, text boxes, and different set of other controls. It would create a lot of confusion, right? If you want to access them properly using their identity, so here you have to provide the identity that is called ID. ID is equal to, I am giving it as LBL some user name. And what has to be displayed on the label? That is nothing but value. That is nothing but value. Value is equal to, there in Windows we call it as text property. Here it is value. Value is equal to user name, right? And closing up the stack. Next, input type. I just want to create a login form with username, password, and one button. I want to create a login form where I want to see username text box, password text box, and button called sign in. Okay. Input type is equal to text. It means text box will be created. ID is equal to txt username. Okay. Next, first username label and username password text box will be username label and username text box will be displayed. And password label, password text box should be displayed in the next line. First, let's see. Now, I've written code to create two controls. Okay. As I said, whenever you save it, it should be saved as a .html file. Save as. On desktop, I'm going to create a new folder. Website. Okay. Inside website, I'm going to just create as login form. As I said, finally it should be saved using .html extension. Okay, now go there. Go to your website under desktop website. Now you see, once I save it as .html, okay, now see, it is showing, it is identified with web browser, right? Now if I click on this, it will be automatically open in the web browser. Username. So remove structure of application. Just save it and refresh it. Right? So the file is in my local machine. So my local machine is behaving as server. Okay. And this is your account. Your web browser is your client. Right? So username and username text box. And next one has to be displayed in the next line. So if you want to break the current line, and if you want next thing to be displayed in the next line, you have to use a tag called break. Break. Next, I'm going to create two more controls. Input type is equal to label. By default, if you do not specify any type, by default, it is label. But for others, you should specify the type. If you do not specify any type, by default, it is label. LBL password. password, type is equal text, ID is equal to txt, password. Next, save it and just refresh it. Now I can see username and password. And button has to be displayed in the next line. So again, I have to use one more break. Next, input type is equal to button. ID is equal to btn sign in. Value is equal to sign in. When it comes to button, if I click on button, what has to be done? Some action has to be performed. Where do I write my action? So that action has to be performed on click of your button. So where should I write it? In Windows, we used to write it inside click event. Here also, it comes with on click event. On click event. Right? So if you want to perform some action on click, that has to be written inside the on click event. Let's see this. Right? Now enter user ID and password. If I click on sign in, nothing is happening because we did not write the action. Where should I write my action? Your button comes with an event called on-click event. Your action has to be written inside on-click event. But in Windows, I used to write my action using C#. Here, where do I write my action? So as I said, HTML supports own scripting languages. You would use either VB script or JavaScript to write your action. So here inside head, okay, or outside of your HTML, you can write it anywhere. Write your script. Language is equal to which language it is, JavaScript or VB-script? JavaScript. End of script. Here I need to write my actions. And coming to JavaScript, the syntax, loops, operators, and everything is similar to your C#. The statements, if statement, switch statement, while statement, for, and operators, arithmetical operator, regional operator, everything is similar. The syntax is also similar. Okay. All you need to know here is you just need to know some built-in functionalities of this JavaScript. That's it. You need to know how to write it, where to write it. Alright, you don't need to learn it separately. Okay. Just go and refer some basic tutorials. That's all. Okay. Okay. Here in JavaScript, as I said, it doesn't contain any data type. Everything should be declared as var. That's all. Because it's not a programming language. It doesn't contain any data type. So if you want to write some function, you would write something like this. Function, you would use a keyword of function name. Let's say authenticate user. Authenticate user. Now write this. Authenticate user. Right? And call this method from onClick. Call this method from onClick. What happens? Whenever user click on this button, on click, we are calling this function. This function will be called. And whatever is written inside this function, that action will be executed. Here, what we have to do, you have to get value entered by the user from this text box and this text box. Get the username and password entered by the user. Validate that username and password. If that exists, redirect user to another web page, home page. Otherwise, display some message saying that invalid username or password. Okay. How do I get data from these text boxes? Okay. So simple. Where here I'm defining a variable. If you want to define a variable, you would use a keyword called where because it doesn't contain any data. Everything should be declared as where. Where is integer, character, string, you can store any data. Okay. Where username is equal to, now I need to get the username entered in the text box. Here we have a class called document dot get element by ID. Get element by ID. Document dot get element by ID. Okay, so this is the document, right? Here we have to get all the controls by their ID. That is in document dot get element by ID. Here you have to give ID of this. What is the ID of username text box? Txt username. And what has to be extracted? The value of text box here. Dot value. And like your C#, in JavaScript, every statement has to be ended with semicolon. In the similar way, password. Where password. Document dot get element by ID and get the password from password text box. Right? Now I need to check. Same if statement, while statement, everything is similar to your C#. No need to learn it separately. If username, actually it has to be verified in the database, but I'm just hard coding it. Username is equal to AA and password is equal to BB. If username is equal to AA and password is equal to BB, BB. Okay, then displays a message saying that yes, congratulations, you have been authenticated successfully. Else, displays a message saying that invalid username or password. Right? Same, it is very similar here. If while and everything is very similar to your C#. If username is equal to this, password is equal to this, then print a message saying that your login is successful. Otherwise, print a message saying that invalid username or password. Okay, but if I want to display something, what should I do? There are two things. You can display message on the form, on the web form. If you want to display some message, you have to use it. The same document class comes with another method called write, document.write. Okay, so in JavaScript, syntax and your operators, statements, programming options, everything is similar to your C# and Java. Okay, the only thing you need to know here is your document comes with set of built-in functionalities like get element by ID, write, redirect. So you need to know the use of those methods. That's all. Okay, so document.write. It's like your console.write line, message box. So as I said, a message can be displayed in two ways. You can directly display that on the web form, and you could also display that message using a dialog box. Okay, now first we will see how to display that on the web form. Login is successful. Otherwise, if it is not matched, document dot write. Please enter valid username or password. Any questions, guys, so far?
No, sir.
Okay, now go to your, just refresh it. A and BBB. Login is successful. Okay. Now I'm entering it as AAA CCC. Please enter valid username and password. We're displaying the message on the web form, right? So now I want to show this using a message box, like a dialog box. So when it comes to dialog boxes, we have three types of dialog boxes: input and output statements. I can say input and output statements in JavaScript. Right? So whenever you want to read something from the end user, when you want to display something to the end user, you'd be needing input and output statements. Right? To accommodate these statements, JavaScript is providing 3 dialog boxes. What are those? Prompt, next alert, and confirm. Prompt, alert, and confirm. So prompt is nothing but your input statement. Whenever you want to get something from the end user, you'd use prompt. What prompt will do? If I use something like prompt, P-R-O-M-P, prompt, please enter a number. It will display a dialog box with one text box. In the text box, first this message will be appeared. First, it will show the dialog box. First, this message will be displayed like please enter a number, and below this message, one text box will be presented where user can enter that number in that text box. Finally, it is going to return like your console.readline. Finally, it is going to return that value in the form of a string. So whenever you want to read something from the end user, you can make use of prompt. Alert. If you want to display something, this is like your console.writeline. Use alert. And if you want to take a confirmation, hey, whether you want to proceed, yes or no, you can use confirm. Okay, right. So in our case, now what has to be done? I don't want to use document write. I want to display this message using a dialog box. What should I use? I should use output dialog. There is alert. Replace it. See, please enter valid using password. Now the message has been displayed using a dialog box. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, now you are aware of the input and output statements, the statements like if, else, while, for, and operators. Okay, now you can start writing your JavaScript programs. All you need to know here is just you need to know the built-in things of your JavaScript. That's it. Just go through some basic things in Google. Okay, just JavaScript tutorial. Start writing some example. No need to go through any tutorial. Just write some examples. For example, in C# we have written a lot of programs. For example, find whether the given number is even or odd. Here I'm going to keep another button. I'm going to keep another button. What is that? Input. Let me copy this. Just break. So I want to ask user to enter one number. I want to ask user to enter one number. And I should write a program to decide whether it is even or odd. Button even. I'm going to write a function value find even number. The value of the button is find even number. Now on click, I'm going to write my own function with the name find even. So write a function. Okay, this is function 1. I can write a number of functions. Function find even. Now what should I do? I should ask user to enter some number. So if you want to get some input from the user, you have to make use of prompt. You have to make use of prompt. Just ask user to enter some number. Now it will ask user to enter a number. Store that number into one of your variable where number is equal to prompt, like your console.readline. What prompt will do? It will ask user to enter some number. Once that number is entered, it will return that number in the form of a string, right? So if you want to convert that into integer, what should I do? You have to make use of conversion functions. Here we have some conversion functions like parse int, parse float, something like this. Parse int. Okay. Okay. I'm going to define another variable where num is equal to Now it is a string. I just wanted to convert this. We have a function called parseInt of number. You can also directly give parseInt here. Now what it will do, it will convert string into integer. If I say parse float, it will convert to this into float. Okay. Now you have to decide where this number is even or odd. Say whatever you written in C#, say if num mod 2 is equal to 0, what has to be done? Use dialog box, alert, alert. It is an even, else, alert. It is an odd. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, same program. That's why if you're good in C#, you're done. Okay, you can write any function in your Java, JavaScript, everywhere. Now go and click on this, just refresh, find even or odd. Now see, this is your prompt dialog box. It will display the message, and below that one text box will be provided where I can enter my number. Let's say 23. See, it is an odd. 24. It is an even. Right? Next, I'm going to place another button. Okay. Button print. I want to print numbers from 1 to 100. Button print. Print even. I'm giving the function name as print even. So I want to print some even numbers between some range 1 to 100 or 1 to 1000. I'm going to write another function. Like this, you can write a number of functions. Function print even. Same thing. Ask user to enter the range. I'm just copying this. Please enter end limit. Whether you want all events between 100 and 1 to 1000, 1 to 2000. The end limit, as we are asking him to provide the end limit. Now what has to be done? Simple. Whether you want to write a while loop or for loop, it's up to you. Are you with me? You can write any loop. If I want to write for, where I is equal to 1, how many times it has repeated? I is less than or equal to num. Same while loop, for loop, and everything is same. I plus plus. Right? And check here. If I mod 2 is equal to 0, just use document dot write. Document dot write. Print I, that's it. And give some space between one number to another number. Now what it will do? Let us assume that user has entered end limit as 100. Between 1 and 100, it will check each and every number. It is an even or an odd. So it will identify all even numbers and print all even numbers. Right? Just go there. Refresh it. Print even. Please enter the end limit. Let's say 50. See, it has displays all events between 1 and 50. Right? Is there any difference between JavaScript and C#? The programming wise? No. If you're good in one programming language, you can easily work on any programming language. Okay, so these are the basics of your JavaScript. Okay, so just play with different types of controls of HTML before coming to next session. Okay, just to try to play with them. So in HTML, if you want to design a website, you have to write everything manually like this. There is no intelligence provided. There is no technical support provided here. Right? So if I keep creating the controls like this, if I start creating the controls like this manually, if I start writing everything manually, it would consume a lot of time. It will kill my productivity. That's why what Microsoft has done, they built a layer on top of HTML to make your development process more faster, to save the productivity of the developer. They designed a powerful application on top of your HTML that is called your ASP.NET. As I said, if I use HTML, HTML supports only scripting languages. But when it comes to scripting languages, it doesn't contain any data type. You can store any type of data, but in all cases, it will allocate the common amount of memory. So a lot of memory wastage will be there in scripting languages. And it doesn't support object-oriented programming. And it doesn't contain advanced programming options. You can also simulate object-oriented programming, but it doesn't contain advanced programming options. And the major disadvantage is memory management. There is no proper memory management supported in your scripting languages, either VB script or Java, because it doesn't contain any data type. To avoid these things, what has to be done? We have to write our action using programming language like C#, Java, high-end programming languages, right? Which is not supported through your HTML. That's what Microsoft has done. They have designed a powerful web technology called ASP.NET, where you don't have to write these things manually. A lot of intelligent support is provided. You don't have to remember any property manually. Okay. So it provides intelligent support. If I type something, input type, the intelligent support will be there. It will let you choose the options from the list of populated options. So you don't have to remember anything, right? And these things, controls will be created automatically by your ASP.NET application, where you just need to write like minimal amount of code. That's all. And the beauty of ASP.NET is you don't have to use your JavaScript. Still, it's about JavaScript, but you can write your actions using a powerful advanced programming language called C# and VB.NET. Already me. So what is the difference with this plain HTML and ASP.NET? Here, it supports only scripting languages. You cannot use programming language to write actions. To overcome these drawbacks, your Microsoft has introduced a powerful web technology called ASP.NET. And that has been designed based on the standard HTML structure only. But there, you don't have to write this much of code manually. If I drag and drop the control, it will be generated automatically, like your Windows. And you can write your actions using a powerful programming language called C# and VB.NET. Any questions, guys?
అన్న ఇప్పుడు విండోస్ ఫార్మ్స్ మనం లేబుల్స్ టెక్స్ట్ బాక్సెస్ అవి డ్రాగ్ అండ్ డ్రాప్ చేసి కోడ్ చేస్తాం కదా అలా HTML లో చేయలేమా?
In plain HTML, you cannot do that because this is a plain HTML, right? That's why Microsoft has designed a special application called ASP.NET Web Application, where you can drag and drop. Okay, so like your Windows, there also you will see a toolbox. Okay, let me show you that. So that will be our next application. Okay. Continue without code. Okay, now choose the platform as web. Okay, here you will see ASP.NET. Forget about core. Core will be our last concept. What is the version? Might have not installed it. like I did not install it. We'll install it. Okay, guys. Okay. Anyway, so this will be our next class. Okay, I'll get this installed. Okay, it is missing in my machine. Okay. So any questions?
No.